The differential equations course was the one that kind of inspired me to really start saying I want these capabilities and then working with Stefan to implement them. So this is a sophomore level differential equations class, primarily serving engineering students. It's got about 400 to 500 students enrolled each semester in a couple of lectures and, 20 some odd discussion sections. And one of the things that I wanted was to have these out of class quizzes, which is where I needed these timed quizzes. But the other thing I needed was a big question bank. So because the students were going to be taking this outside of a proctored environment and it was for course credit, I didn't want everyone to have the same problem. So I needed a way to have a large question bank. And so the coding language that I'm most familiar with is MATLAB, and that's where I'm comfortable kind of doing whatever I want in MATLAB. So other faculty at Cornell, Dmitry Savransky primarily, had kind of helped me out with things in the past using the API, like a class with lab sections. He had helped me assign lab report due dates based on the section using CSV files and uploading through the API. And I was like, I don't know what any of this means, but I want to use this. So then when I was teaching this differential equations class with a lot of kind of new moving parts that I hadn't used before, I realized I need a lot of this to be automated. And that's when I kind of reached out to find someone who could help me with all that. And that's where Stefan stepped in. So Stefan created a whole series of functions that I can use within MATLAB to create all the different question types in Canvas. So I used that in the math course, in the differential equations course, to make 4 credit assessments. I also used it separately in my engineering course, which is statics, sophomore level statics. There were a few topics where I just want the students to have extra practice. So I had a TA kind of take a few figures from the textbook and put in variables for all the dimensions instead of specific numbers. And then I generated a big question bank of, if this dimension is 3 and this is 2 and this is 7.9, then what's the unit vector? So that was good, and that was just a self-study quiz that they could not timed, not for credit. They could just take it as many times as they want and just practice until the students felt comfortable that they understood the concept and could do the calculations like that. So I did that for just 3 topics and maybe 6 or so different questions. And then I generated a couple of hundred of versions of each one of those this semester. But I'd really like that to be something that I kind of grow as I identify, like, oh, this is a thing I want them to get practice with. Let's give them a question bank of that they can do a self-study quiz on.
At the beginning, Dr. Ritz had given me a couple of examples that our Professor Savransky in the department had worked on previously using Python to work with the Canvas API. And that gave me just a little insight into how to deal with the Canvas side of it. The MATLAB side was different. That was basically using MATLAB to generate objects that could be written to JSON files. And then Python can take those JSON files and send them as quizzes up into Canvas. But in terms of the process of doing things from scratch and whatnot, at least in my case, there was a lot of reading the documentation, the Canvas API documentation, which is quite nice. So I've spent a lot of time last summer reading through that and seeing the various amounts of data that you can pull out as well as put in. That helped a lot.